and I am your host, John Easthope. Alongside me, as always, from FlamesNation.ca is Robert Munich. Robert, how are we doing on this fine holiday Monday?
We're doing great. I'm thoroughly enjoying the Olympics, which it's just been an awesome tournament so far. So I'm pretty pumped about that. But then my mood completely changed in our little pre-show talk here, and we were talking about the history of coaches in the Calgary Flames system. And my God, it's an ugly list. So, happy with the Olympics, but then that whole conversation with the coaches, that just brought me back down to earth. Now I'm sad.
Well, I had to get you in the mood for the talk of the Calgary Flames this week on the podcast. I, too, have enjoyed the Olympics. I've seen some people online being like, the Four Nations was better, or I'd rather watch paint dry. I'm like, you guys are just watching to hate, I guess, because this has been really good hockey. Even these, I watched the Denmark versus Latvia game on Sunday. Two teams just vying for a spot in the quarterfinals, and it was just absolutely a tremendous hockey game between two nations equally matched that they're just trying to battle it out. So you get those kind of matchups. You don't get to see those very often. So I think it's been great hockey. It's been fun hockey. It looks like Canada and U.S. are on a collision course. We'll see what Finland and Sweden can do to put their mark on that tournament. But it's been actually excellent hockey to watch, and Canada has looked they've looked unbeatable at times in this tournament. Yes, I know they've played France, but come on, still got to go out there and earn those points, and they have done that.
Dude, how cool is it just to watch Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid and Macklin Celebrini on the same line?
Just about to go there.
Did you see that? And watching that first power play with Makar and Crosby out there, it's so cool. This is such an unbelievable experience. I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of it. I don't know how you can't not enjoy watching this brand of hockey right now. And the other thing too is even when the superpowers take on a lesser country. In a few of the games in this tournament, it's been very close. The Italy-Sweden game was quite good. Latvia-USA was quite good. Even those games have been pretty solid too.
Yeah. Sweden didn't finish first in their group because teams like Slovakia have shown up and have exercised a little bit of what they've got going on there and elevated their game a bit here. It's tremendous to watch. And you go back to the Canada there's that photo of Celebrini and McDavid and McKinnon on the ice at one time, just talking to one another. You're just like, man, how fun is this to watch? How unfair is that power play for the other teams to try to shut down? It's incredible to watch, and I'm very excited to see how these knockout games go, because we could get some really good, intense hockey. And that's us watching Flames all year, Robert, but you watched Canada, and from game one, shift one, it's been a lot of intense hockey. Canada's been dialed in. They've been rolling. They've been flying around. Tom Wilson's getting in scraps, and people are hitting one another. Mark Stone looks rejuvenated, even though he's slower than a tank. It just been really, really, really good hockey. You are a little bit concerned with that second goal Binnington gave up against the Italians, but against the French. But at the same time, it's you can't ask for more from a preliminary round of hockey, and looking forward to these knockout games here.
Me too. Yeah, just like you said, Mark Stone is a third line player, and he's a Selke Trophy caliber forward. He's on pace for 120 points in the NHL, and he's almost viewed as almost a bit of a depth piece on this team. And Mitch Marner is viewed as a bit of a depth piece, and this is a guy that can push 100 points in the NHL. This team is remarkable, and I wonder where it ranks on the all-time list of Team Canadas that have been assembled. I would argue it's easily in the top three. I would say because the defense and goaltending is not quite as good as other teams in the past. It might bring it down a little bit, but this might be one of the best forward groups ever assembled in the history of hockey. This is it's special what we're watching right now.
Yeah, we chatted about that a little bit last week as well. It's on text with you and I. We were talking about the 2002 team and how stacked that was, and the 2010 team was pretty stacked, but this top six that Canada has this year, it's definitely among the best of all time. How can it not be with Crosby and McKinnon and McDavid and Celebrini's kicking himself in there, and you look around and you see how the depth as viewed as you just laid out there with Stone and such. Just these are depth pieces. You got Montreal's leading scorer on your fourth line. You got the Conn Smythe Trophy winner as your 13th forward. Like ridiculous depth up front. And so yeah, it's got to be up there for me. I think it definitely is a top 3 team of all time. And hopefully you get the good Jordan Binnington in these elimination games. You get the Four Nations Jordan Binnington coming through for Team Canada, because if you get that and these guys go on to win gold like they should, then how can you not put it up there as one of the top 3, if not top 2 teams of all time for Team Canada? Like, it's what a stacked roster. And then you look at the other side of the brackets too, right? Like, you're looking at Team Sweden, you're looking at Team USA, Team Finland. These are the teams supposed to be challenging Canada, and you just think, like, how good are the Americans actually? They look like they're coming into form as they played Germany and won that game pretty handily. You saw Sweden finish in their group, not first. So what is Sweden? Finland's always a scrappy team, but can they pull it together when it actually matters without their big guy and Barkov being with them? So a lot of interesting storylines going into these quarters and semifinals for the Olympic hockey. So great tournament thus far, in my opinion, as well.
The only way that Canada loses is if they shoot themselves in the foot. And whether that's goaltending not showing up, or they turn the puck over a bunch and they make mental mistakes, I think that's the only way Canada can lose this tournament, because they're so good on paper. They've been incredible in the preliminary round here. The defensive game is incredible. The speed, the physicality. Nobody can touch this team, in my opinion. But like I said, if Jordan Binnington, shits the bed in the semis or the gold medal game, like, I think that's really the only way this team can lose. They're so well coached. They're so deep. They're so fast, physical, skilled. Like, I just don't see how anybody can even come close to keeping up with them.
If we get Canada, US in the gold medal, like a lot of people are predicting here, I really am intrigued to see how this forward group for Canada matches up against that defensive group for the States, because I think the Americans have the best defensive group overall, but can they keep up to the speed and skill of Canada? And I think in a gold medal game, that will be your difference, because I think if you get good enough goaltending from Jordan Binnington, he's going to match what you get at the other end. We know Hellebuck tends to not show up in big games, not to make any slight of him. He hasn't won things because he hasn't shown up in big spots, high pressure spots. So it'll be a very interesting matchup if we get that far. We got to get there first, of course. But for me, I really wonder how that would match up if we actually see that, and I kind of hope we do see that. As heart racing as that would be, it would be a ton of fun to watch as well if you're a Canada or US fan as well. No easy transition, because we're going to go from talking about some really elite hockey and really good hockey players and some good tournaments to the Calgary Flames, a team that has not lived up to a lot of expectations, or maybe have lived up to your expectations. A team that doesn't have the firepower and doesn't seem to have the ability to get off the mat or get out of their own way. Robert, the Flames find themselves in the bottom part of the league, bottom 5, of course. We've talked about that ad nauseum throughout this season. They found themselves not being able to keep up in games. We've noticed and noted their lack of pace at times as well in these hockey games. So it begs the question is, based on what we're seeing from the season thus far, the potential moves that might come heading towards the trade deadline, what should be and what are your expectations for this Flames team as they head into March here in the trade deadline and the end of the season? What should we be expecting from the Calgary Flames here?
I mean, first off, going from the Olympics back to the Calgary Flames, that's going to be a tough transition. It really is. Like, that's going to be like going from eating like 3-star Michelin restaurants to going to eat a Taco Bell. Like, it's going to be rough, and I'm not really looking forward to that part of it. But excuse me. In terms of expectations, like there's the on ice and there's the off ice component. I'll start with the on ice. I'm actually for the final 25 or 26 games, whatever it is that they have remaining here, I'm actually more excited for those games than I have been at any point so far this season, because there's going to be a lot of youth in the lineup. There are going to be trades. There's going to be spots that open up. Jonathan Huberdeau's out for the rest of the year. There's another spot that's going to open up. So I do think that we are going to see a full-on youth movement between now and the end of the season, and I'm pretty excited to watch it. Matt Vagridin's going to be put in positions to succeed in the top 6 in the forward unit and play in like probably the first power play unit. Same goes with Zane Parekh. I hope they're able to find a way to keep Rustevich up. We're going to continue to see the progression of Yan Kuznetsov, which has been pretty exciting this year. And then you're probably going to get a Rory Cairns that gets called up, or a Morton, or a William Stromgren, or maybe even a Suniev near the end of the season. So from that perspective, I'm actually kind of excited to watch the Flames here in their final 20 games of the season. So, it feels like they've kind of waved the white flag a bit. I think we are going to see probably at least 2 trades. I'm hoping it's 3 or 4, but I think we're going to see at least 2 between now and the deadline. And this is the start of a brand new era of Calgary Flames hockey, and I think it's going to be pretty exciting here. So on the ice, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. I don't know. Is there anything that's kind of catching your eye from an on ice perspective?
On ice, I don't have expectations for on ice. I don't care about the wins. I don't care about the results, really. It's more about the process for me and how they're getting these young players those opportunities, like you just spoke about, the Robert. So for me, that's my expectations for the on ice product of this team, is just get these players into NHL games, into situations to help them succeed. Let Perek run your power play. Let Gridden run on the top line, or whatever line's your number one scoring line. Let these guys come in. Let Morton get an opportunity. Let Karen get an actual run in the National Hockey League. Give Stromgren a run. That's what I hope for this organization. We don't need to see 32 minutes of Mackenzie Weegar every night. We don't need to see Nazem Kadri fumble around for 28 minutes a night. Just let these kids play. So that's my expectations for the Flames on ice. Just let the kids play and put them in spots to succeed. Results will be the results. Who cares? I know Team Tank's probably angry at me, right, for saying that, but it is what it is. Let these kids play. And so for me, expectations on ice, I just don't really have much. Just let these kids play and put them in spots to succeed, Robert.
What about off the ice? I mean, that's probably where things are going to be most exciting here.
I expect a lot off ice. So what about you?
Yeah, I do too. Like I said, I think we're going to see at least 2 trades. So, by all accounts, it sounds like Blake Coleman is as good as gone, which is the right thing to do. If you're the Flames, it's going to suck because he's such a good player, but
Yep.
That's the right thing to do for the long-term future. It feels like Kadri, a trade is inevitable. It feels like it's coming. And then on top of that, I would like to see them move out a couple depth pieces, Joel Hanley being at the very top of that list, because you're going to need to open a spot here to keep Bristevich and Perek in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only way to realistically do that is to move Mackenzie Weegar to the left. And then that puts Joel Hanley out of the Flames lineup. And, from an asset management standpoint, picking him up on waivers for nothing and then moving him, for a 4th or 5th round pick, something like that, I think could be, really smart by Craig Conroy. And then the final thing I'd like to see is them weaponize their cap space. And, they do that a little bit in terms of retaining salary on guys that they're trading out the door. But I'd like to see them, take a bad contract off another team's hands, whether it's a Patrick Laine type of player or just, any guy who's taking up a lot of salary cap space on a contending team. If there's a chance to bring that player back and get, anywhere between a 2nd and 4th round pick on top of it, I think that would be really, really smart of the Calgary Flames to do something like that. I don't know if, Colorado, maybe they're looking to get rid of a guy like Ross Colton, potentially, who makes, I think, a little over $4 million a year in their bottom 6. Like, and like I mentioned, Laine, like those are the type of deals I'd love to see Conroy pursue. They've never made one of those deals, which is, kind of upsetting. I mean, if you're the Calgary Flames, you have all this cap space. Why are you not doing anything with it? That doesn't make sense to me. So I'd like to see them make a smart move like that. So give me all the trades. Give me at least like 4 trades here, 3 of roster players, and then let's maybe bring back a bad contract who's going to be UFA in the summer and get a draft pick in return for that, and just load up on draft picks over the next 3 years here. That is the smartest thing for this team to do. So I'm very intrigued to see what Craig Conroy has up his sleeve here between now and the deadline.
Yeah, I like that last one you said there, Robert. I don't think that's talked about enough. Like the Flames, they hid themselves in the past. I think that's why they haven't made those type of moves. And so with them kind of realizing what they are, where they're going, what they need to get done, I think this is the perfect opportunity to make one of those trades, make one of those moves, bring in a Patrick Laine, and if he plays and is okay for you, fine. If not, whatever, the contract comes off the books and you have that asset. I'm all about, for me, it's making sure Conroy sticks to his plan. That's my expectations for this off ice. Stick to the plan of actually building something, building a core of players, that you can build for the future on, and that means a lot of lottery tickets, not just the draft lottery, but actual lottery tickets. Get your third rounders, get some extra fourth rounders. Make sure if you can squeeze, heck, even squeeze a fifth rounder. We've seen what they've done with fifth rounders in the past. If you can squeeze those extra draft picks out of teams in these trades, bring in as many assets as you can. So continually add to the cupboards, continually have it, because once you're a team that's ready to turn that corner and to be a playoff team and to compete and look for division wins, look for Western Conference Finals type of things, you have these assets that either turn into players that are going to help you achieve those goals, or players that you can package together to get you those players to help you achieve those goals. It's the easiest way to build, in my opinion, is through the draft, collecting all these assets. And when you have too many players at the end of the day, you can use those and package those up to get better players, and you build your roster. So stick to the plan if you're Craig Conroy. Make those trades that Robert's talking about. Bring in these assets, bring in these draft picks, and then make good use of them. You've drafted quite well. According to all the experts out there, the 2 drafts that Craig Conroy's run have been very, very, very well received throughout the draft community. Continue to do that kind of thing and make those bets. Bet on skill. Bet on players that are highly skilled players, and you're going to see rewards at the end of the day. We're seeing it now with Eaton Winback in the NCAA, leading all players in scoring, not just freshmen. When you make hits like that in the draft, it makes your rebuild easier. And how do you do that? Well, you bring in those assets to draft with. So for me, stick to the plan off the ice, Craig, and let's get all of the draft we can, all of it, for the next couple of years, like Robert said, because I think next season, we'll get to this conversation much later in the year and as the offseason goes on. I think next year's Flames team is going to be as bad, if not worse, than this year's Flames team based on what we're seeing here. So take advantage of the opportunity in front of you and make those moves and be pragmatic about what you're trying to do in building this Flames organization.
Yeah, that you make a lot of good points there, and I think the idea of draft picks, like they're so valuable in the NHL, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. And
100%.
If you're the Flames, like you said, you between now and let's say 2028 or 2029, your main mission is to acquire as many draft picks and draft as many talented pieces as possible. And like you said, then all of a sudden you can either put them in the lineup or you can package them in other deals. And like I look at a team like the Florida Panthers, and that's one thing that they were brilliant at, was using all the players that they drafted, using the assets that they've accumulated over the years to bring in the right pieces to help them win. And like I look at the Sam Reinhart trade, for example. They end up moving out Devin Levi, who at the time was a top goaltending prospect in the league and a first-round pick, and they bring in Sam Reinhart, who's been absolutely spectacular for that team. The Seth Jones trade, they end up trading Spencer Knight, another top prospect and a first-round pick. They bring in, a legit top 4 defenseman that helped them win a cup. They trade their, what was Huberdeau, a second or third overall pick?
Third.
Mackenzie Weegar, who, turned into a top 4 defenseman in Florida, a first-round pick and a prospect for Matthew Tkachuk. Like, so Florida had so much talent, so many pieces that they accumulated over the years, and they were able to trade them and bring in the right pieces to help them win. And I think, like I said, right around that kind of 2028, 2029 time period for the Flames, those are the types of moves they should be making.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to make those moves, you have to draft really well. You have to draft talented players, and you have to pick up as many picks as possible. And that's what I really want to see Craig Conroy do. And I hope they don't rush it. Because if they're patient with this build, I really believe that they're going to be in an incredible position right around 2029, 2030. They're going to be in an amazing position to become a sustained long-term contender in the NHL, a team that can make the playoffs 7 to 10 years in a row and has star players. Like that's like super exciting. Like that's what you want if you're a Flames fan. And yes, there's going to be a couple rough years here ahead, but ultimately it's going to lead to the ultimate mission and goal of being a true contender and a legit Stanley Cup contender. So I'm really happy with the way things are going right now, and it's just they just need to stick with it. And like I said, don't rush it. Be bad for at least 2 more years, pick in the top 3, and then all of a sudden, I think this team's gonna be on a rocket ship, and it's going to be incredibly fun to watch. And the fans are going to be in the new building, are going to have this exciting, young, fast, skilled team that can legit take a run at making the playoffs every single year and not, be in 1 year, out 1 year, in 1 year, out 1 year, and lose in the first round. Like that's what I think like gets me fired up. And I think that's what gets Flames fans fired up. So just stick with the plan. Like you said, stick with it, be patient. Good things are going to happen in this city. I really believe so.
Yeah, how can you not be excited for it? They got a good. We talked about this before as well, but they've got a good base started. The Griddens, people are really excited about Coronado. We love what Parek's doing on the back end. Rustavich, Kuznetsov on the back end. Just keep adding those type of players to this lineup, and when you move into that new building, people are going to start seeing that change over to the youth and to these younger, exciting players. Then you're going to add. Let's say the draft lottery goes really, really well for you this year, and you get the guy that you want, whether it's Stenberg, whether it's McKenna. You're adding that player to the organization. And then next year, what if you get the top overall pick and you add a Landon DuPont or somebody else to the lineup that's really high on everyone else's radar, and you got some young explosive skill now to add to this really good mix. And that, for me, makes you be really good really quickly. Look at what San Jose's done. I always use San Jose, and people are probably sick of me using it, but they've done it the right way. They built through the draft. They've got those pieces on the outside. They got those guys like Eklund, that they add to their, and then they started getting those top end picks, the Dickinsons, the Celebrinis, the Will Smith, and now that team's really excited to watch. They make the move for Askarov, and they're rolling now. That team is going to be a fun team to watch for a few years. Flames can be on a similar trajectory here if they just stick to the plan. I really hope they do. And for me, I have faith in Conroy that he is going to stick to the plan. It seems like he has the faith of the owner, and finally have convinced Don Maloney that fantasy players are actually good hockey players you want on your roster, not just on paper.
Honestly, one of the most critical moves they can make might be getting rid of Don Maloney. And I know they just re-signed him, at the start of the season, apparently. But one of the key moves they should make is firing him, because, the type of mentality that he has about building a hockey team does not fit where the Calgary Flames are going. And if he steps up and he convinces Murray Edwards that, hey, we're going to take a step back this year, but we're going to invest in, older free agents, and we're going to move out first round picks to bring in, a really good player in a blockbuster trade, like that could be a disaster. So I'm with you. I have all the confidence in the world in Craig Conroy. I think he knows exactly what he's doing, but Don Maloney, that guy scares me. And the more you hear from him and the more you read his comments, the more you think this guy has no idea what he's doing. So hopefully Craig Conroy's got the ear of ownership and not Don Maloney.
And if ownership's listening, which I hope they are, I don't think Craig Conroy needs a babysitter anymore. I think it's time to make Craig Conroy the everything hockey ops and let him use his assistant general managers as he needs to use them, and doesn't need anyone in front of him anymore. I think he needs to be the one reporting to the owner now. And I don't think Don Maloney has a purpose. If you want to keep Don Maloney around, make him a consultant of some sort, but he needs to move off that job title at the very least. I'm with you on that one, Robert.
The same thing happened with Brad Treliving. I mean, I think it took 3 years for him to kind of get his feet under him. He had Brian Burke there as the president of hockey ops, and then they discussed it and they said, you know what, Brad, you can take the training wheels off him, and Brian, you're no longer needed here. And I think the exact same thing needs to happen here with Craig Conroy. He's been on the job now for 3 years. It's time to let the training wheels off, and this is his team. This is his organization. He's the one that should be making the ultimate decisions, and it should not be Don Maloney. I'm with you 100% on that.
Plus, he has like 900 assistant general managers. I think he has enough help. Like he's got a guy doing everything, right? So I have faith in this management staff. I think they finally have the ear of the owner. I think the owner, as much as we rag on him and I've ragged on him, I think he's realized what this season is, and he's given the green light to Conroy to do what he needs to do. So coming out of the Olympic break in over a week's time here, we're gonna see what Conroy's made of headed to the trade deadline and beyond, and what this team is going to shape up to be. So it's exciting times ahead, and I hope Don Malone just keeps his face out of it, to be honest.
Yeah, just get out of the way. Just shoot. Get out of here.
It's not all been bleak for the Flames this year. I know we kind of made it sound a little bit bleak there for the season wise, but there's been some bright spots to this Flames organization, and they've had a lot of other things go right for them. It's time for us to hand out a little bit of awards to kind of celebrate those wins here. I wanted to start with the MVP of the team here, and I wonder if we both have the same guy. For those who are listening, Robert and I have not compared lists on this topic. I wanted to be surprised at Robert's answer, and I wanted to see if we matched up on this one at the same time. So, midseason award time, because I think this player has been the best player start to finish. I think this guy has been a leader. This guy is scoring goals. This guy is first over the boards, it seems, anytime there's special teams. This guy is absolutely what you want in a hockey player, and it's a shame that he's in the trade rumors. It's a shame that he's probably not going to be a Flame by the end of the season. But for me, to this point, Blake Coleman has been the MVP of the Flames, and I don't know if there's anyone who really could argue that fact. Maybe Rasmus Anderson was until he got traded, but I think Blake Coleman, for me, has been the MVP of the Flames. Robert, what say you as your MVP of this team?
Honestly, if you're looking at it, someone who's helping this team win on the ice with their play, it honestly has to be Rasmus Anderson. And he's not even on the team anymore, and he's legitimately been their MVP this year. He was that good for them.
He was just awesome.
The point production, the goal scoring, the defense, the blocking shots, the leadership. He has legitimately been their best player on the ice this season. So I know he's not on the team anymore.
Well, they've been god awful since he left too.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he's struggling in Vegas, but in Calgary, he was really good. So I would give it to him. If you have to give it to somebody who's still on the roster, I would go Michael Backlund.
I love
because basically for everything that you just described with Blake Coleman, you could absolutely apply to Michael Backlund, and he plays a more important position at center ice. And like you said, he's first over the boards on the penalty kill. He's actually been pretty decent on the power play this season. He shuts down the opposing team's top lines of 5-on-5, and he usually ends up coming out on top of those matchups. And I know lots of people don't like plus minus, but when you take a look at the plus minus on this team, Michael Backlund is a plus 13. And then you take a look at some of the other forwards, Nazem Kadri minus 24, Matt Coronado minus 22, Yegor Sharangovich minus 18, Morgan Frost minus 15. So, the majority of the forward group is well into the minuses, yet Michael Backlund is a plus 13. Like that, I think that says a lot right there about the season he's having. He's on pace for just shy of 20 goals. I think he's on pace to have the second best statistical season of his entire career. Like, he has just been phenomenal for this team, and he's doing it all at the age of 36, which is absolutely remarkable. Insane. So, yeah, I would go Anderson and Backlund as kind of like almost co-MVPs. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I like that pick. I like that a lot. I had Coleman and Backlund as my 1-2. I didn't have Rasmus Anderson on the roster because on the ballot because he's not on the roster. But
yeah,
everything you said about him is absolutely true. That guy's been tremendous. The Flames team's been just awful since he's left as well. It's been kind of a mess without Rasmus Anderson. But I don't think you can go wrong. No, and we both pick guys that are long-term line mates together, right? We both pick guys that run the most important line for the Flames, and seemingly this year they're also the highest scoring line of the Calgary Flames. So those two guys are not playing anywhere close to the level they are right now. This Flames team is probably dead last and making Vancouver look good, because that's how good these two players have been for the Flames. So I like that pick by you, and I think I'm still going to stick with Blake Coleman for the reasons I mentioned, but those two guys have, by far and away, of current players on the roster have been the best too. It really isn't close for me.
Another way I was kind of thinking about the MVP is from a tank perspective. I was like, who's the guy who's leading the tank this year and been like the most valuable player in that regard? And I came up with Huberdeau, because he's just having such a miserable season and nothing happens when he's on the ice. And, him not playing at the level that he was at last year, I think is one of the major reasons why the Flames are so bad this year. So from a tanking MVP, I would give that to Jonathan Huberdeau as well.
I hate to do it to the guy because I like the guy, but I have to give it to Mackenzie Weegar, because everything he touches is a bomb. Everything he touches is a grenade. Every time he touches the ice, something goes wrong. And it's not because he's a bad player. It's just that's just how the season's going for him. And you hate to rag on the guy because he's a very likable human and a very good hockey player when he's on his game. But he's the grenade man this year, and so everything he touches, it's been absolutely negative for the Flames. So I go Mackenzie Weegar there, but that Huberdeau one's a very good pick as well. It's been tough to watch Weegar this year. Hey, minus 32 is just. I know we don't like plus minus, but when it's that egregious, it tells a story. It really has.
And I always kind of like compare it to like what the other guys are doing on the roster, kind of like I mentioned with Backlund. And, the same thing could be said with Kevin Ball. The guy is plus 11 this year. And then you look at and that's been the top pairing. Then you look on the second pair, Mackenzie Weegar minus 32. It's like, that says a lot. It's like the Flames aren't like historically bad where everybody is in that kind of minus 32 range. Like there's other players here who are performing at a higher level. And just the gap between Ball and Weegar this year is wild. Like plus 11 minus 32. It's like a 43 plus minus differential between the two players this year. It's crazy.
Even the guy he's played a lot of the season with in Yan Kuznetsov, who's only minus 7, like that tells you a stark difference, right? I know McKenzie plays a lot more special teams than Kuznetsov does, but when the guy you're playing with is only minus 7, you're minus 32. That's a massive story, and then it's just a huge Grand Canyon between him and Kevin Ball. So unfortunate for Mackenzie Weegar. Hate seeing that for number 52, and I wonder if he comes up in our next couple of topics here again. Let's go to biggest surprises, Robert, both good and bad. Let's start with the good because I like keeping things good. I just mentioned the guy that I think has been the biggest surprise and has been a big positive, and that's Yan Kuznetsov. A lot of people coming into the season were wondering what he can be for the Flames or if he can even be on the Flames. He gets through waivers at the beginning of the season, but once he's called up, he hasn't looked back, and I think he's looked every bit the part of a defenseman for the Flames. Maybe not a top 4 guy, but he's been absolutely come as advertised. He's solid. He skates fairly well, got a good stick, and he keeps learning. And for me, he keeps getting stronger as the season goes on. Even in a tough season, I think he's been a very big positive for the Flames. So for me, my biggest surprise this year thus far has been the play of Yan Kuznetsov. Where do you head?
That's an awesome pick. And when you consider where Kuznetsov was at the beginning of the season, the Flames put him on waivers. They were willing to lose this guy for nothing, and they were willing to lose him in order to keep Daniil Miramanov and Jake Bean around. And I don't know if that's so much like their opinion on the player Kuznetsov or just the business and financial standpoint that they were.
That was rage bait.
I mean, honestly, looking back on that whole situation, it makes the Flames look really stupid.
Yes, it does. Like
really, really bad. I mean, they could have lost a potential top 4 defenseman for the next 8 to 10 years, literally for nothing, just to keep Miramanov and Bean. Like, it's just insane. So yeah, from the standpoint of they were willing to lose him for nothing to now the point where he's a guy who you see long term in this team's future. Like, yeah, it's an incredible story for Kuznetsov. That's a really good pick. I'll go with the low-hanging fruit on this one, and I'll just go with Devin Cooley.
Love it.
And kind of a similar story, right? I mean, starts the preseason, has awful numbers, has probably the worst numbers in the NHL. He gets lit up like a Christmas tree every single game of the preseason. There really wasn't one preseason game where he looked like an NHL goaltender. So to go from that, and the Flames were, reportedly shopping for a backup at the time, but then they decided to give Cooley a chance. So to go from that, the lowest that you could possibly be, to now being one of the best goalies in the NHL from a numbers standpoint is unbelievable. It's actually a remarkable story for Devin Cooley. So yeah, he is definitely my biggest positive this season, and kind of says a lot about the Flames year that your backup goalie is the most positive player this season. And the other positive is a guy who was on waivers to start the year. So but yeah, I'll go Cooley. It's just been a really cool story for him.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I've gained a lot of respect for Devin and the way he's approached that position. He didn't let the outside noise bother him. He just went in and approached it. He lets everything roll off his back, and he just goes in there and he plays his game. And we saw him play that flu game. It was in Pittsburgh, and he looked really good doing that. And when you got better numbers than Dustin Wolf, who is the guy and will be the guy for this team, and you keep pushing that guy to be and get more starts, you're having yourself a good year despite what the team is doing in front of you. And the best thing about Devin Cooley is he gives his team a chance to win regardless of who the opponent is and regardless of the situation. He just goes in there and he plays his heart out. So not only is he had a really good season, he's just a really good dude, and I think he comes across as a really good teammate as well, and the players play for him. There's a lot of goaltending. We've seen this in the past, especially when Kiprusoff was around. The team didn't trust the backup goaltender and then put forth the best effort in front of that goaltender. Well, these guys play for Devin when he's on the ice, and he battles with them, and they squeak out some points here or there, and that's a lot of credit to the way that number one is playing the game. So I like that pick from you. It might be low hanging fruit, but it's a really good pick as well.
Mm-hmm. There wasn't much to choose from there, for being totally honest.
No, I was wondering if Rustevich would come up, and I was wondering if Britton would come up in those conversations, because they both have been nice surprises to the year, like Britton making the roster out of camp. Rustevich came up and he's looked really, really good. So honorable mentions really to those guys. But yeah, I'm with you. There's not a ton of others outside of that to pick from, unless you're a big vibes guy with Ryan Lomberg, what he's brought to the organization this year.
Yeah, the only other guys I was thinking of was Backlund, but I picked him for MVP. So, doing what he's doing at his age is pretty surprising in a positive way. Yeah. And then the other one I was thinking of was Kevin Ball, just because I think he has played a little bit above expectations this year, but I coming into the year, I saw him being like a really important piece of this team. So from like a surprise standpoint, I actually am not all that surprised that he's playing as well as he is, but he's probably the other guy I think you could consider for this conversation.
Yeah, love it a lot. Where are you going on the other side of the coin, Robert? What guy has been the biggest surprise negatively for you?
Every player on the roster outside the guys we talked about. Man, you could go a lot of different ways with this one. We talked about Huberdeau, we talked about Mackenzie Weegar. They're obviously considerations for this, but I'll throw Dustin Wolf out there. Heading in, I know that might not be a very popular opinion, but heading into the year, my expectations for Wolf were very high. I thought that he was going to be able to actually improve a little bit upon what he did last year, and he hasn't. He's actually taken a step back. He's actually taken a pretty, I wouldn't say a considerable step back, but it's been pretty big. I mean, you take a look at his numbers this season, his goals against average is just shy of 3. It's a 2.98. His save percentage is below 900. There's been a lot of games this year where he's given up, 3+ goals. Like, he had that streak in January and February there where I think it was like 8 of his last 9 starts, he gave up at least 4 goals. So it hasn't been the season that you wanted for Dustin Wolf, but I'm not concerned about him long-term at all. It's just been one of those years where it's been a little bit rough for him and he hasn't been quite as sharp as he was last year. So, and if this team, if they wanted any chance to be in that playoff mix, he had to be special, and he had to be probably a top 10 or even top 5 goalie in the NHL, and it just hasn't really happened this year. And Cooley's been better than him. Cooley's been considerably better than him. So, just a little disappointed for Dustin, and I think it has been a little bit disappointing for him.
I think Dustin's at the point of his career where the league's kind of figured him out just a little bit. It happens with every young goaltender. So I think it's on Dustin now to adjust to those adjustments of other teams and what they're seeing from his game. And if he can get himself back to those levels and figure that out, I think he's going to be right back to where he was last season, just being one of those elite goaltenders, a guy that can be the backbone of your team. And I have faith that he does do that because that's all he's done his entire career. He's adjusted to what he keeps seeing. And so I think that's where he's at right now. So it's been disappointing numbers wise from him. In a couple of games, you just look at him, you're just like, you got to have that save or this save. You got to make sure you give your team an opportunity to win. And we just haven't seen that. Like, he stole some games last year. It was a big reason why the Flames were in that playoff push last year as well. So it's interesting to see how that will work out here as we head forward here. For my biggest surprise negatively, I'm going to go back to the well again. People have heard me talk about this more than once, and it's kind of low-hanging fruit for me, but it needs to be said again. Nazem Kadri has had a good start to the season, but then fell off what seemingly is a cliff for me. So for me, the attitude of Nazem Kadri and what seemingly is his approach since his 1000th game has been extremely disappointing. He doesn't seem like he's that leader, that he cares enough to push through the hard part of the season for the Flames. He doesn't seem like he's engaged anymore. It seems like he wants out. The rumors are out there. It seems like he's playing that way, playing like he played at the end of Darryl Sutter's tenure with the Flames as head coach, where I don't want to use the Q word, but it seemingly feels like he has quit on this organization and he's ready to move on with it. He does lead the team with 39 points in the 56 games, which is just 6 ahead of Michael Backlund's at second. The difference there being the plus minus again, minus 24 compared to plus 13 for Michael Backlund. And it just shows with his shooting percentages way down. It's at 6.5%. His face-off percentage is down below 50% again. And he's getting his 19 minutes a night, but he's just not doing anything with it anymore. And it just seems like it's Sunday skate for this guy now. And so for a guy that you were expecting to lead this team, not only in points, maybe goals, but a guy who's supposed to lead this young group, this next crop of Flames players, the Matt Coronados, the Connor Zaris, those guys, he just really hasn't been that guy. And for all this talk about culture and winning culture, it's a bunch of bupkis when you have a guy like Nazem Kadri around that's just not showing you that culture. He's just not showing you that attitude anymore, just not showing you that will to win. So for me, he's been a massive disappointment, especially since that 1,000th game from Nazem Kadri.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And when you take a look at his stats this year, like you said, he's got 39 points this year. That's tied for 100th in the NHL. So it's not where you want Kadri to be. Normally he's in that kind of 50-ish range, and he's really kind of taken a step back in that regard. And with
only
this
10 goals.
Yeah, and only 10 goals. I mean, yeah, you like the assists. 29 assists is pretty solid, but for a guy that's he's scored 30 plus goals a couple times here in Calgary, that's the kind of guy you need scoring more goals for your team. And like you could have this conversation with a lot of guys. I mean, I think Frost and Farabee have been both okay, in terms of actual output. I think they're below par for what you expected from them. Connor Zary has had a really tough year, had the horrific start. I mean, he's gotten a little bit better, but it's definitely a little disappointing from him. And then I think the praise Yegor Sharangovich is getting recently, I think, is completely overblown. I don't think he's having a good year. So he's struggling too. Like there's a lot of guys on this roster that are not playing their best hockey this season. You even throw
pretty much every winger. If you look at it, it's pretty much every winger on this roster.
Absolutely.
Matt Coronado hasn't had the season we expected him to have. Adam Klapka's so hit and miss, it seems. Laumberg's not going to give you much on the fourth line. Your Sharangoviches, your Farabees, those guys, Huberdeau, have all been way below what you expect them to have. Like you mentioned there, Robert, there's a lot of guys we can have this conversation with, and it's just, that in and of itself for me is a massive disappointment for the Flames as well.
Yeah, because how many of these guys did you want to build around moving into the future here? Like you want Coronado to be a big part, and I still think
wanted Sharangovich. They wanted Sharangovich because they have the long contract there.
Yeah, so you throw in Sharangovich in the mix, and you throw in Huberdeau and Frost and Farabee and Zary. Like those are all guys that you were hoping to kind of build around a little bit. You can even throw Klapka in the mix, and none of them have really stepped up and been the player that you want them to be this season. And there's still time for them to turn things around. Most of those guys outside of Huberdeau are still pretty young players for the most part. So there's a chance for them to be able to pick their game up, but this season has been pretty discouraging from that standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Disappointing. It really is. Great for the tank. Great for the draft lottery odds, though. It really helped that win. Robert, your favorite moment of the season thus far? There's not a lot, in my opinion, to like and to think about. But I'm wondering where you're going to go here with your favorite moment of the Flame season.
Yeah, you're right. There honestly wasn't much to choose from here. I went back and I looked at the calendar and was just kind of reminiscing and thinking about different games and different goals and all that kind of stuff. And the one thing I just continually came back to was the Battle of Alberta. And
nice.
The Flames took
mine. I love it.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. Well, honestly, like I said, going through the calendar, it's the only thing I could really come up with. And they've won 3 out of the 4 Battle of Albertas. Mm-hmm. You look back at game 1 of the season with that comeback and the win in the shootout, that was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Skinner.
And then a couple of the other ones, where Ryan Lomberg scores big goals, he scores that breakaway goal at home. He scores the game winner, just before the Olympic break there, and the dome really popped off, and those were a lot of fun. And those are the kind of games, even if you are, on Team Tank and you want to see them get a high draft pick, you still want to see the Flames destroy the Edmonton Oilers. So for them to beat them 3 out of 4 times, I think that was by far and away for me the most fun I've had watching this team this year.
Yeah, I zeroed in on that last game of the series as well. Winning 3 of the 4 matches is awesome. The comeback was great. Thanks, Skinner. The game in Edmonton, they played their hearts out each time they played Edmonton. And that last game, though, in particularly was probably the best version of the Flames this year that I've seen. Cooley battled in that goal. He was really good, really solid. You saw all 6 defensemen play really pivotal roles in that game. You saw your guys that you needed to be engaged with points score. Like you saw Huberto get his 10th goal before he was out with the injury. You saw Gridden. You saw Gridden with probably the best goal of the year. Like that was a great shot. Connor Zary got on the board, which you like to see, and then you got good guy Mr. Lomberg getting that what ended up being the game-winning goal. In a game that they were outshot a little bit by, but you saw a lot of heart. You saw them 2 for 3 on the power play. You saw them kill off half the penalties which against the Oilers is a good thing. Like you saw them out hit Edmonton. You saw them just battle their hearts out. And Mackenzie Weegar was named first star that night by Pat Steinberg in building. So the guys that you wanted to see battled hard and got points and scored. And that team looked really rejuvenated heading into the Olympic break. And so for a season that hasn't really gone how you wanted it to go, being in the Battle of Alberta and winning 3 of those 4 games, I don't care if you're on Team Tank and you want all losses. Those were fun hockey games, fun results to have, and you can't help but cheer on that game against Edmonton. They played right for the break. So for me, I'm with you there, Robert. And I think it goes to show you how little positives there have been this season for the Flames, that we both zeroed on the same thing, because the Battle of Alberta was fun this year. It really was.
Yeah, and the only other thing that came to mind was actually the Don Maloney interviews, because it gave so much to talk about and so much content to the podcast and Flames Nation, all that kind of stuff. So shout out to Don Maloney for the content, but even though what he said was absolutely ridiculous, but that's the only other thing that I could think of.
I just couldn't talk about it anymore. Maloney, that conversation is something else. It really, really is. Let's go back now, Robert, as well. This season has gone a lot of different ways for us, and we made some predictions to start this season based off some of the players we just talked about as well, where we saw this team going. And both of us were a bit wrong on some things, but I think we nailed other things right on the money there. Where will the Flames team finish this season? Where were we talking about? I said mushy middle again. Clearly, I'm wrong on there. This team clearly isn't good enough to be in the mushy middle, which is a weird way of wording that, but it is. Where did you have the Flames finishing this season? Just how do you look back on that prediction?
I had the exact same thing as you. I think the way we phrased it was, are they a playoff team, are they mushy middle, or are they a lottery team? Mm-hmm. And yeah, both you and I had them in the mushy middle. And the big reason for me was I thought Dustin Wolf was going to be better this season, and that just hasn't been the case. And, between that and like all the disappointing seasons that we just talked about, that led to the Flames now being a legit lottery contender. So yeah, we swung and missed on that one.
And some might view that as a good thing. Some might think that, hey, this is what the Flames needed. But hey, if they were going to miss, I'm glad that they're missing by a bunch and not that 9th, 10th spot again. We predicted the leading scorer and the leading goal scorer. So I had Nazem Kadri leading the team in points, which is spot on. And I had Coronado getting to 34 goals and leading the team. He's not quite there. Hold on, I lost my page there. He sits at the league leading the team leading at 14 right now. I don't know if he's going to get to the 34 goals, but I nailed it with who's leading the team in points and goals. What about you, Robert?
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I went Kadri as the point leader. And, I was listening back to our prediction episode last night, and, we both said, like, there's really nobody else you could even consider to lead the team in points. And I think we're pretty bang on with that. And then I had leading goal scorer. I had Nazem Kadri, and he's only got 10 goals this season, and he's probably going to get shipped out here. So that's looking like a big swing and a miss. But, the crazy thing is the Flames might only have one guy that gets to 20 goals this year, and it might be Coronado with 14 and 55 games. Everybody else it's looking like they might not even get there. Like the Flames could have one 20 goal scorer this season. Oh my goodness.
And with Nazem and Coleman probably both going out the door, does he even get to 20? Like, where does that offense come from now? Because Coleman's second with 13 goals, and Nazem leads the team in points. So if those guys are both out, does Coronado even get to 20? Which is a scary, scary thought.
God, when you have a season like that, you hope you finish in the bottom 3 and get a top 3 pick. Because What a disaster that would be. Can you imagine you end up with like the 5th or 6th overall pick in a year where you have 120 goal scorer? Like, oh, that would be rough.
Yeah. Oh, that is rough. We went then to which player will meet expectations / will disappoint. So not meet expectations. Where did you go on the player that you thought wouldn't meet your expectations, Robert? I don't remember what you said, and I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on my guy after I hear from you.
Well, I'm not happy about this one, but I did kind of nail it. And I came into the season saying Connor Zary was not going to be at the level that we hoped that he would be. And that's kind of how it's exactly played out this year. He's been pretty disappointing. He, like I said, he had the terrible start to the year. Things have been getting better recently now that he's got a more consistent place in the Flames lineup. I think, having consistent line mates and being in the top 9 has really helped him. But yeah, I would say this year has been a pretty big disappointment for Connor Zary, and I kind of nailed that one. But like I said, I'm not really happy about it. I wish he was having a better year.
And I hated you for that take, by the way, but you nailed it. I think I get half points on mine. I said that Joe Hanley will not repeat as a bona fide top 4 guy. That it's we got all we could get out of him last season. That it's hard to repeat that success of the type of player he is at the age that he is. But he's really solidified himself in that third pair and has been a really good mentor to these young defensemen, especially Preseason. So I want to say that I'm right because he's not a top 4 guy, but at the same time, I think I'm wrong because he's actually having a decent season for the player that he is and the mentor that he is to a guy like Preseason. So half right, half wrong.
I'd say half point is probably fair because like you said, yeah, he's not the top 4 guy. And when he was in the top 4 this year, I did think he struggled. But now that he's on the third pair, I think he's really kind of calmed his game down and he's actually been pretty solid. So yeah, I'd say half point's fair on that one.
We keep saying we should ship out Hanley to make room for people, but man, it'd be hard to ship that guy up because he's had he's been a really good mentor for Hunter Preseason. I think they played really well together. Who exceeds expectations? I think I've swung and missed on mine because he's the same player we saw last year. He's the same player we saw come over from Philadelphia, and he had a really good preseason, but he just couldn't carry that forward. Morgan Frost has been fine at times this season, but he hasn't really elevated his game, and I don't think he's exceeded anyone's expectations. So I'm a little disappointed in what we've seen from Morgan Frost because he doesn't make me look good here because I thought he was going to be a 2C in this league, and it really looks like he's just a solid number 3 center who is going to get you a couple points a year and not really blow your brains out, even though he has all the skill in the world.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say he's been like slightly below what the expectations were for him. Like I was hoping he'd be kind of like a 40 to 50 point guy, and it's looking like he's kind of on pace. What's he on pace for right now? He's on pace for about 40 points this year.
Yeah,
it's been a little underwhelming for him for sure. The breakout player I had was Dustin Wolf. I actually thought he was going to be quite a bit better than he was last season. That might have been an unfair expectation for a sophomore, but I think the guy is just remarkably talented and has an incredible head on his shoulders. And I really thought that he was going to take that next step, but that has not happened this year. So it was a big swing and a miss. But my honorable mention, I'm like, damn, why didn't I go with this originally? My honorable mention was Rasmus Andersson. I was like, I listened back to the episode and I was saying that, he had a lot to play for this year between the Olympics and the contract and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I could see him having a big time bounce back season. I was like, shit, I should have went with that.
Yes, you should have.
I look like an idiot with the Dustin Wolf one.
Oh man. And the last thing we did was we talked about potential Flames up for any NHL awards. My notes say on my page here, I just don't see it, and my opinion hasn't changed on that. So I nailed that one. Did you see any Flames up for awards, and do you see anything changing there? Is a Flame coming out of the left field to win an award for you this year?
Well, not anymore. Heading into the year, I definitely thought that Dustin Wolf could have been in the Vezina conversation, but once again, that is a big swing and miss. It has not gone the way he or the Flames have hoped this year. So yeah, that was kind of the one guy I had my eye on. But like I said, and I think you agree, like not worried about Dustin Wolf in terms of the long term. It's just kind of one of those years where the entire team is off. And I do have the full confidence that he'll be a top 15, top 12 goalie in the NHL for a long time.
And then last thing before we stop here on the podcast, a chance to maybe change your Stanley Cup prediction if you want to. I have Colorado over Carolina. We're almost 60 games into the season. I still feel very confident in my prediction of both Carolina and Colorado making the Stanley Cup final. I feel very confident in the juggernaut that is the Avalanche and what Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon are doing to this league right now. So I'm going to stick with my prediction. Do you still like your Stanley Cup prediction from earlier, or are you going to switch it up here, Robert?
Yeah, I do like mine. I also said Carolina, and I had Carolina winning the Stanley Cup. And then I went with Vegas as my team out of the West. And I know they've been pretty inconsistent this year. You know, they have 14 overtime losses, which is pretty wild.
It is.
You know, they only have 20 regulation wins this season, which is pretty crazy. But just I like the roster. I like the age of all the players. Like, they're all in their primes. They're all ready to win right now. You add Rasmus Anderson, and you know, maybe it's going to take some time for him to get used to playing there, but I do think in the playoffs he's going to be a big time player for them. So I'm still happy with Vegas, Carolina, and Carolina being my cup winner, because Carolina's been really good and they're running away with their division.
Yeah, they are. They've been really, really good. Rob Brindamore has that team going. Vegas for me just seems like a team that's just okay. Let's get to the dance. Like regular season is what it is, and so I wonder what they're going to be once that dance starts. And you want to go into the dance as a team playing a little bit better than they are right now, but I just wonder how they're going to look in a few months when we start the Stanley Cup playoffs, because I don't see them falling out of it. They're too good, in that Pacific Division's just awful. So good picks by you. So I really, really like those as well.
Yeah, I'd mentioned Vegas only has the 20 regulation wins. You know, like Seattle has more, Ottawa has more, Utah has more, the Islanders have more. Like,
it's crazy.
It's to have 14 overtime losses already this year for a team that's as talented as they are is pretty unbelievable. But I think what you just said there was brilliant. Like, they're the type of team that's like, yeah, okay, we just need to get in and then we're ready to go and we're ready to take the next step. Like, they're kind of like a Florida or like Edmonton in that regard.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because the Avalanche in total between overtime losses and regular losses are only at 18. Vegas's overtime losses are almost as much as the Avalanche in
That's
total.
Crazy.
It's wild what the Avalanche are doing. The team's ridiculous, and they only have 55 games played, so they have all these games in hand on everyone, and they're already 1,000 points ahead of everybody else in the standings. So that's crazy. That Central Division's insane. So good luck to Minnesota and Dallas and maybe Winnipeg or whoever else is in that division. Yikes. Robert, what is coming up from you on flamesnation.ca, and where can the Flame fans find you and your work?
Yeah, I'm just struggling mightily right now to put content out there because the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, they're ruthless when it comes to photos and videos of the Olympics. So you essentially can't even cover it from like a social media standpoint, which is kind of frustrating. So just trying to put out like some fun videos and some fun content on Flames Nation socials, and just keep following along. That's pretty much it.
At Ring of Fire CGY on social media, I'm Vintage Johnny 84. We're having a great conversation on my Twitter right now about who is the greatest Flame of all time, and I can't believe that's a debate, but we're having that on my social media, so please come join that conversation. That's a lot of fun. And guys, I had somebody tell me that it was Hawk and Lube, and it's not Hawk and Lube, and it is not Gary Roberts. I do not care what anyone says. It's Jerome McGinley, and that's the end of the discussion. Really, it comes down to him being the greatest Flame of all time. Until next week, enjoy the rest of the Olympic hockey. Enjoy what Team Canada is going to bring you. Hopefully, it's Canada-US gold medal. And we'll chat all about it next week here on the Red Mile Rundown. Have yourselves a great week, and enjoy.